Yeah, so one of the biggest things we talk about in our line is evolution. You know, I always like to say that we've been around 86 years, but I wouldn't call us a heritage company. I would say that we have 86 years of experience to do what we're going to do next. And so one of the things we love to do is hear from users out in the field in terms of their personal experience. What needs do they have? Everyone uses gloves differently and has different preferences, different levels of warmth, all of those things. And so one of our proudest partnerships is with PSIA and AASI, and we work with a lot of instructors. And so after one of our meetings a few years back, Chris Rogers of Vail came to us and said, hey guys, I'm a snowboarder. I love your gloves, but there are a few things on the fall line, which I wear, this model, that I would change. I mean, if you look at these, the way we created them is you have an out seam. So the seams are on the outside of the glove to give you a little more dexterity, which is great until you start needing to get snow out of your bindings or messing with, you know, if you're instructing, you're messing with your students' bindings and things like that. So this is a natural wear point for you. It's not waterproof because in the Rockies, we don't need a lot of waterproofing except for storm days and things like that. Generally, we're wearing a non-waterproof glove because it gives you a little more ability to shed that warmth and to manage it. And so what we did is went back to the drawing board and said, we really like this, but how can we make it more specific to the user we're trying to serve? And so this is called the Freeride C-Zone, which is specific to the US market. And we built this directly out of Chris's feedback. So you can see the seams here are tucked inside the glove. So there is the elimination of that wear point. We actually extended the reinforcement across the palm. So when you're carrying your board, you don't have that natural wear that you would have before. Most gloves aren't blowing out because of wear. They're blowing out because of edges of snowboards, edges of skis. So always be mindful of that. But this gives you a little more rigidity in terms of carrying your board, and you don't have to worry as much about that. And then we also shortened the cuff on the back of the glove so you can have access to your smartwatch. So our instructors communicate a lot of times on the mountain through their smartwatches, and this gives them a cuff that accommodates that and gives them the opportunity to not have to pull back a jacket, pull forward a glove, and then access it. It's just pulling back that jacket and making it a lot more simple. And then the last piece is C-Zone is Hestra's waterproofing membrane, so it's waterproof and breathable, and we put that in the glove just to give us an extra layer of protection for those snowboarders who have their hands in the snow. We love to see those fingers dragging in the snow, especially on powder days, but this is a very good microcosm of how we take gloves and evolve them over time for certain users. So one of the biggest talking points for the Hestra line as we move into 22-23 is this idea of sustainability, and part of our ethos as a brand is to make gloves in the most sustainable ways we can. Part of that means finding new materials and reducing waste and making gloves that last for a really long time. Part of the conversation around gloves is always removable liners. So we like to think about your gloves in a system, just like your base layer, right? You have 3, 4, 5 layers on any given day, but often your hands are an afterthought. And so for us, we talk about a liner, a base glove, which is what you think of as your traditional glove, and then an overmitt. So moving into 22 and 23, we did something that is keeping me up at night a little bit, but I also think is a really good indication of the brand's dedication to being sustainable. And so if you look across Hestra's line, you see a lot of removable liners. But the fall line, which is one of our best sellers worldwide, doesn't have that. It's got a fixed liner. And what that does is it gives you a really good midway. This is a great glove for 85% of your days on the hill. And our staff actually loves this glove. Most of our staff ski in this glove. It's a big preference internally. And when we saw the line for 22-23, we saw something that was markedly different from what we've been doing, which is adding a removable liner to the same model. And what that does is a couple of things. One, it gives you the opportunity to be a little more versatile in your glove system. So you can pull out this liner, which is a polyester liner, same liner that's in our Helis and Patrols that Hestra is iconic for. If you've seen white leather, you've probably seen those gloves. Pulling out this, putting in a lighter liner gives you a really good ability to make a versatile glove out of one glove. So you go buy one glove, you add a lighter liner and an overmitt, and you reinvent your entire system. We like to talk about gloves and systems rather than just gloves. So if you've watched the 50 Project, Cody Townsend talks about this a lot, right? Every day is different. Every morning is different. Dawn patrol is different than starting at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And so as conditions change, you need to be ready for that as a skier. And so this gives you that opportunity to be a little more modular in what you do. The backside of this, in terms of sustainability, is that once your liners pack out in this glove, you can replace them. In our older models, once they pack out, you have a really great spring glove and the glove that'll last you for a really long time, but the glove will kind of pack out over time, as any glove does. The beauty of this new setup is that we can pull this liner out. We'll be selling replacement liners, and you buy a $30, $40, $50 liner rather than a new pair of gloves, and you save this shell. And as long as you keep balm on this shell and you maintain it over time, this will last you for years and years and years and years.
Good.
So over the last few years, we've started to innovate on the materials front and really put a dedication towards removing some of the more harmful chemicals out of the tanning process. And so you can see these leathers down here look strikingly different than what you see in the rest of the line. And that's on purpose. So that is the natural grain of the cowhides that we're using in this line. So we have a cowhide called EcoQueer, which is out of a tannery in France. And what it does is uses a more natural process. So we use natural greases to balm the leather and to give it that moisture repellency and that protection that we want without using any chromes or dyes on the process. So it's a much more eco-conscious process. And people have loved this. Every year we kind of test the market and see what's being well received and what's not. And our hope was that this would be really well received. It was, and so the next logical progression is to add something else. So while we love goat leather, we also love cowhide, we also love goat leather, which you see in our heli series, our patrol series. Goat is really one of our favorite materials to work with. And so this year the progression was to find a way to tan that without chromes or dyes. And you'll see this is more of an almond color than the yellow that we see in the cowhide. But if you get up close, you can kind of see the nice natural grain of that leather. It's beautiful, and it only gets better over time.
Oh, that's great. And that's goat?
That's goat, yeah.
Love it.
And we're also putting that in the Fall Line Series 3-finger mitt and glove next year as well. So you'll see that across the entire line.